We still got an hour. That way.
I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Board of Commissioners for the town of Mint Hill, North Carolina for the March 13th, 2025 meeting. We do have a quorum present. At this time, I'd like to ask Commissioner Long to lead us in our invocation.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us together as a group to discuss and make decisions about the future of this town. Thank you for the citizens that took their time to show up to participate in this form of government we've been blessed with, that we inherited. Not many else have earned it. We inherited it. Thank you for a beautiful day you've given us, that we could have an open house at our new public facilities and allow the citizens to come out and visit. Watch us over us tonight and help us make the right decisions. We ask this in your name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Please stand if you would and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Item number 3 is additions, deletions, or arrangements of agenda items.
Nothing from staff.
Seeing none. Item number 4 is approve the minutes of the February 7th, 2025 called meeting and the February 13th, 2025 regular meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 5 is the consent agenda. A is to accept the February tax collector's report. B, authorize the town manager to execute an easement agreement with Duke Energy for the community center property. And C, accept January treasurer's report and financial statements.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 6. I'm now going to open the public hearing on ZC 25-1 filed by Progressive Land Company for conditional rezoning to approve a 41-lot subdivision for property located at 6040 Willgrove Mint Hill Road, parcel number 137-081-01. Is the applicant present?
Yes.
If you would, please come to the podium. If you would give us your name and your address, you have the floor, sir.
Yes, sir. My name is Derek Hostleton. I am counsel for Progressive Land Company, the applicant. Thank you guys for having us. We appreciate the time. Just a quick overview to get started. This is a 41 home community project on 30-plus acres. As you can see from the proposed site plan here, we've got quite a bit of open space, tree save area, and from what I understand, 2.5 acres above the required open space per the code. Client's been doing business in the area for over 30 years, developments, redevelopments, et cetera. We feel like this project would be very helpful to the community. Number one, to infill this area with high quality homes. We believe the starting price point will be around $800,000. We're going to have 2 points of connection, as you can see, one through the old Stonegate neighborhood, one onto Willgrove Mint Hill Road. So that should reduce the traffic impact on the surrounding properties. Also, though the traffic impact analysis did not necessarily require any additional improvements to the infrastructure, roadways, et cetera, in the area, the plan is to include a turn lane on Willgrove Mint Hill Road entering the neighborhood at that access point. Buffer areas, as you can see, there's a decent amount between neighboring properties that are not across a major thoroughfare already. And we think that the development will be have a positive impact on the community in general. Anybody have any questions?
Commissioner Long, any questions?
Just clarification on that last comment you made, a turn lane. What type of turn lane?
It's a deceleration lane, right in off of Willgrove Mint Hill into the entrance to the neighborhood.
But not a left turn lane coming from Albemarle Road.
From my understanding, that is not included. Is that?
Yeah, we're still working through the analysis of that. Right now, we're looking at a right turn lane in.
Well, I will tell you, I can't vote for it unless it has a left turn lane, so that needs to go on the record.
Further questions, Commissioner Long?
No, sir. Thank you.
Commissioner Holton?
I think we had covered this, but just so the public knows, John, this had always kind of been slated for that. That's why that one road, that old stone gate, was kind of that way.
The Stubb Street? Yeah, matter of fact, the town approved what they call Phase 2 of Old Stone Gate, I don't know, 15 years ago, 10 years ago. So when Old Stone Gate was originally approved, they came back shortly thereafter and had this land under contract and had an approved plan. It was right during their recession, though, so it didn't work out for them.
Gotcha. Okay. I think that's all I had.
Mayor Pro Tem Dalton, any questions?
No, just a comment. I'll have to echo Commissioner Long. That road has way too much traffic on it to not have a turn lane coming off on the opposite direction. You'll stack traffic back out to 51 trying to get in. So I'm a no vote unless you put that lane in.
We will take that under advisement. Thank you.
Commissioner Henderson, any questions?
You said 41 lots, and the gross density is less than 2. What size homes are these?
As in
Square footage?
square footage, that I,
Yeah, I can answer that. They'd be in between 3,000 and 3,800 square feet.
Okay. All right, that's all.
Go further. I'm gonna ask a question, but I'm using it more for educational purposes so that you'll know
yes, sir.
where this is coming from. We heard you say that you did have a TIA, which is Transportation Impact Analysis done by NCDOT, and they looked at the number of trips and all the things that they do, correct, John? And
You're right, but this project, they did not do it.
they did not have to do a TIA.
I mean, unless they voluntarily did one.
It wasn't a TIA, it was just a trip generation.
Okay, so
Included the trips, and it didn't meet the threshold to do a TIA.
So you have been in conversation with NCDOT though, of course, right?
Yes, sir.
And their analysis was that they build roads for a living, that we didn't need to do any turn lanes.
That's correct.
So I think it's important to note here that you have been in conversation with the town and they have shared what they just shared with you again tonight, and we're working through that process. But just because NCDOT doesn't say we need it, we sometimes ask for that to be done as well. So I want the citizens to know that. We hear all the time, oh, we just let them build stuff and we don't ask for road improvements and we don't ever ask for anything else. So I wanted to get that out on the public just because that was today. You say that you've worked through that left turn lane. Any of the drawings include that at this point in time, or you're not that far along? When are you going to get that done before you go to the planning board?
If it's required, we will. We're still working through with the utility companies. There's a couple power poles there, so we're working on, relocation and what that looks like.
Okay, and you'll let the planning board know that, I hope,
Yes, sir.
first week? Very good. Anybody else up here any further? Thank you. I have some people from the public, thank you, sir, that have signed up to speak, and I'm going to call them based on how the card was handed to me. And if you will come to the podium and give your name and your address, then each of you has 3 minutes to speak your mind. And the first one is Rich Adams.
Thank you. My name is Rich Adams. I live at 8847 Mullis Forest Court, which is adjacent to the proposed development. In reviewing the documents, several questions and concerns come to mind. Number one, high housing density and small buffer zones. The applicant has requested approval as a conservation subdivision, yet housing density is high, over 50% of usable land. Lower density with fewer lots and larger buffers would aid surrounding neighbors like ours. Streams on this property are forcing lots to be shifted towards the Stonegate development, with Gatekeeper and Mullis Forest Court lots impacted in particular, with only a 25-foot buffer proposed and shorter 30-foot rear yard setbacks. Without conditional approval, how many housing units would be permitted by code? 25, 30? A by right development with less density would have greater tree save and less impervious surface stormwater runoff and erosion to contend with. With 41 lots, is the street longer than the 1,600 feet required by code, and does the size of the cul-de-sac meet police and fire requirements? Number two, stormwater runoff retention and mitigation. How are you going to ensure water runoff will not cause problems for homeowners on Gatekeeper and Mullis Forest Court? The stream today behind my house overflows with heavy rain. With the cul-de-sac and lots 21 and 22 on the hill above my house, how will you ensure that more water will not run down the hill and cause me and others along the stream problems? Are housing downspouts going to tie into the system that routes water to the retention ponds? And are landscaping swales being designed to keep water from flowing downhill into our community? What is the slope of the street to the ponds and cul-de-sac? It appears at a 30-foot grade drop from the front of the proposed development down to the cul-de-sac, and at least half or more of the street contour runs with the slope instead of parallel to it. What is the rating of the stormwater retention system and method of getting water to the ponds? Number three, stream buffer, wetlands, and wildlife. There's a walking trail in the stream buffer. Why? It goes against having a buffer. Has an environmental study been performed to determine the impact to wildlife, particularly to the owls, hawks, and deer? What is the proposed plan to manage the wetlands if it is determined they are protected wetlands? In summary, I am not in favor of the rezoning request that includes 41 lots and minimal setbacks and trees saved as proposed. I understand the economics that drive the need to maximize the number of lots in a plan that has unique characteristics of this property with streams and possible wetlands that represent some expensive challenges to overcome. However, I have serious concerns about the ability of this high-density development to manage the amount of stormwater runoff that will be created with a large amount of impervious surface and roof volumes proposed, and the risk it presents to surrounding streams, wetlands, and property owners like me. If the rezoning is approved, I'd like to see the plan modified to eliminate lots 20, 21, and 22 to shorten the street, lessen the grade change, provide more drainage area, move the stormwater capture closer to the retention ponds, and a widening of the proposed 25-foot perimeter buffer to provide neighbors on Mullis Forest Court and Gatekeeper with more of a tree save and water runoff buffer at the shared boundaries of the proposed development. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to ask the next two applicants try to keep it close to the 3-minute time limit, if you would, please. Janetta Dula. And if I do butcher a name, that's why I ask you to repeat it and give me your address as well. So,
I'm Janetta Dula, 7927 Grove Hall Avenue, Mint Hill. I oppose the housing development. I just don't think we need another one off of Will Grove, Mint Hill Road. We still have building on Nelson Road down where I believe it's the McEwen Village is. We have the Meta Vista that just finished up, and we also had the Will Grove Pond built a couple years ago. I'm worried about the increased traffic, the possible baseball park traffic. I know there's something on the agenda, or has been on the agenda, for someone to build and bring in tournaments. As the previous gentleman mentioned before, It's destroying the wildlife habitats. It infects our environment and increases pollution, air and water. And Mint Hill continues to build without addressing the infrastructure. Will Grove Mint Hill Road is a state road, so if it was to be widened, it'd be years before it was ever to start. There's still no continuous sidewalks down Will Grove Mint Hill Road. And I believe in the proposal, it said executive homes, what's considered an executive home. And when I moved here, subdivisions, or at least mine, had to be 50% full brick homes. And I don't believe that's enforced anymore, so I don't know the deal there. I did post on social media to make people aware of this proposal. And from the comments, I don't think the majority of people come to these meetings because they say, and I'll quote, "Won't do any good to oppose, town doesn't listen." And the majority of the comments on my post oppose the subdivision. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Jared Helms.
Good evening. Jared Helms, it's 12390 Highway 601 South, Midland, North Carolina, 28107. I'm here on behalf of the Houstons. I'm representing them tonight because their LC manager could not be here tonight, Ms. Pat Houston. The brothers, Gary and Bill, are here also with me. And I'm just basically here to help answer any questions that anybody might have on our side of the rezoning. If anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them. If I can't, I'll try to get an answer for you. I just want to say that Progressive Land has been absolutely wonderful to work for. I think there's going to be a lot of benefits to the community. I hear the oppositions. I understand the concerns. I think a lot of things have been addressed. So we've been working nearly, I would say, at least a year with Progressive Land to facilitate this deal, and everything has been spot on with them. They're very diligent about their process. They're very thorough, and I just want to say that I think I've talked to John a few times on this, and you are correct. I believe it was in 2006 this was slated to be Phase 2 of Old Stone Gate, and it did fall through as a result of financing, was my understanding. So, you know, I understand everybody's concern, but I do think it's going to be a huge benefit to the community. It's going to grow your tax base, and I think it's going to absolutely help the police departments, the fire departments, and all the public departments that Mint Hill has to offer, and it's going to enhance your services as well. So I think with that growing aspect of things, that there's a lot of benefit to having a neighborhood like this. So with that said, one other thing I'll say is that the Houstons, Mr. Houston passed away not too long ago, maybe about a year and a half ago. And so he was the actual manager of LLC, and then his wife, Pat, took over. So with the growing age of the Houstons, the representation that has, there's 4 of them left now that are in the LLC, and they're 73 years old and up. So that's one reason why we needed to come to an agreement with someone that was willing to purchase the property, is because of health needs and also economic downsizing for this family, so that they can continue to survive with limited income. All of them are on Social Security, and I think all of you can understand what's going on with the economy, is that their economic status is beginning to downsize and create a situation for them where they just need to, liquidate. And with that said, one of them is in a healthcare facility, and the medical bills don't stop. So there's reasons behind all this. And so with that said, if anybody has any questions or anything, I'd be willing to
Thank you,
try to
sir.
answer them. Mhm.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
I'll now close the public hearing on ZC 25-1 filed by Progressive Land Company for conditional rezoning to approve a 41-lot subdivision for property located at 6040 Will Grove Mint Hill Road, parcel number 137-081-01. I will now open the public hearing on ZC 25-2 filed by Epcon Communities for conditional rezoning for a 36-lot subdivision located on a portion of 8540 Fairview Road, parcel number 197-201-15. I believe the applicant is present. If you will come and give your name and address at the podium, you have the floor.
Good evening, Mayor Simmons, members of the board. My name is Bridget Grant. I'm a land use consultant with Moore & Van Allen, 100 North Tryon Street, Charlotte, North Carolina. Pleased to be here tonight presenting this. I'm here tonight with the EPCON team. I think you all are familiar with John Shamp and Andy Gibbons. They're here tonight. Unfortunately, Ken Cardes couldn't join us. We also have our engineer from Odom Engineering, Will McBrayer, here to answer any questions. We've all been working on this site or some form or phase of the site for a few years, so I won't spend too much time orienting everyone to this, but we're a 21-acre site on Fairview Road. We are just to the west of Quail Park Drive. The existing land use recommended for this area is mixed residential, and I don't always get to say it very often that our proposed rezoning request is consistent with the adopted land use policy. This is a second phase of the Quail Park community that was originally approved a couple of years ago. The second phase is at the back half of the site. It commits to a max of 36 age-restricted units. The lots are no closer than 70 feet from the adjacent existing single-family residential property lines. The reason that's important is because when you're doing what I'll say is a by-right development, typically the property and the lot lines go all the way to the edge of the property. And in this instance, we're preserving about 6 acres of open space between our proposed lots and the existing single-family residential. This is a graphic that shows you Phase 1 and Phase 2 combined, just so you can see the original units that were approved. And this is an additional 36 that would be accessed through our initial community. Access has been a big part of our conversation. It was something that was incredibly important to members of the board as we were first looking at this site. So we went through a number of alternatives of trying to solve the access issue. The first thing we did to gain a second access was to talk to the property owner to gain access through their parcel directly to Fairview Road. There are 2 long-term residents on the site, and so providing access through that site wasn't feasible. We evaluated an asymmetrical road widening of Fairview along the corridor so we could provide some alternative turn movements, but there wasn't sufficient right-of-way availability in that stretch of the road along Fairview, and there's some unwillingness to sell. We also evaluated a traffic signal at Quail Park Drive in Fairview. It doesn't meet the NCDOT warrants, but they were willing to consider it, except for the fact that the signal's proximity was too close to existing signals, so we had to rule that one out as well. We evaluated a right out only at Quail Park. It was still going to allow people to take a right in and left turns into the site, but the design wasn't supported by NCDOT or Mint Hill staff without a median extension. So we moved forward and evaluated a median extension that would go all the way to Jefferson Colony Road. We looked at the ability to acquire right-of-way that would accommodate a U-turn movement for a personal vehicle, and we were able to accomplish that. We also looked at the ability to acquire right-of-way to accommodate a U-turn movement for an ambulance, and we are able to achieve that. The third option was to get enough right-of-way for the U-turn movement to be able to provide a U-turn space for a fire truck. And as you can imagine, that jump from the ambulance to the fire truck was a pretty significant ask on the property owner in terms of right-of-way. And he was not willing to, as you might imagine, allow that much acquisition of land onto his site. So EPCON has continued to try to work with staff, with the board, just trying to be responsive to this, which is why I've laid all of this out. So after we weren't able to get the fire truck U-turn movement at Jefferson Colony, we evaluated shifting the entire intersection of Fairview and Jefferson Colony closer to Veterans Memorial Park with the idea that there might be more right-of-way for us to work with. Unfortunately, it was going to require full redesign of all 4 sides of the intersection, and just overall was cost prohibitive for the number of lots. And so we have submitted a plan that shows the right-out only suggested treatment that was requested from Mint Hill. This is a graphic that shows you can see how the U-turn movement's going to grow with each level of a car that we increase. So this is for the car turning movement. It gets a little bit larger for the ambulance turning movement, which is still feasible for us, but it becomes infeasible due to limited right-of-way availability for that property owner. They would lose a good bit of their front yard and some of the privacy landscaping that provides them buffer to date. So this is the one movement we aren't able to provide. That wasn't for lack of trying. I think it's important to sort of step back and come back to why we initially proposed this in the first place and why EPCON is looking at a second phase here, and why they've been so diligent in trying to solve for this. It is an age-restricted community to 55 and older. It generates less traffic than a traditional community during the peak rush hour times. The age-restricted community has less impact on schools. When they were selling Courtyard Mint Hill, 60% of the homes were sold to existing Mint Hill residents, and the first community sold within 6 weeks. At this point, there is an incredibly high level of interest in Phase 1, and it hasn't been released yet. Again, we're consistent with the adopted land use policy, pleased to be providing more housing options that have been sought after in this area. We're thrilled to have another community that's walkable to the park and to provide that increased buffer to the adjacent community. We mentioned that during the community meeting, and that was something that was desired by the people who lived in the existing neighborhood. And we'll be providing sidewalks along the side's frontage. This is just to remind everybody what the courtyard model looks like in terms of the private space and why our lot lines don't go all the way to the rear property line. It's sort of self-contained. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions, Commissioner Henderson?
So you may have said this, I think you were talking in your New York voice.
I'm from Ohio.
So, I was just kidding. So where did you land then? Where did you all land with all of the different options?
What was most feasible and available to us was to be able to accommodate an ambulance U-turn movement. So we can accommodate a regular car making a U-turn, and we could accommodate an ambulance making a U-turn, but we were not able to accommodate a fire truck U-turn.
Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Dalton.
Yeah, I know what's going to happen. Truck's going to turn left there, and it's going to go through that guy's yard. I mean, that's just the way, facts. You can drive anywhere and you see where there's a U-turn, trucks are going to abuse that. You're going to be in that guy's yard. Our last meeting, I was under impression that you all had decided not to go this route and you were going to do a by right build and not come back to us for the approval. What happened to that plan?
It was still an option, but we felt like it was necessary to explore the option, just to let everyone know all of the different paths we've been trying to achieve. I think some of the adjacent property owners would prefer that we did the smaller lots that were away from the property line. So we just used this time to explore all of the options.
All for right now. I might have another one in a minute.
Commissioner Holton, questions?
So is there going to be a median to prevent left turn out of Quail Park? Is that right?
Sorry, let me go the other direction. So you're going to be able to have right turns and left turns into the site, but you're only going to be able to go right out of the site. No lefts out of the site, which I think was the movement we were trying to prevent from happening.
Left. Okay. Okay, so no left turn out of Quail Park, but left turn, okay. I gotcha. And I think I kind of am sharing Dale's frustration, I think, a little bit here, because we've been round and around with this, and initially there was supposed to be another road with the stoplight, and you keep saying it didn't pencil, it wasn't feasible. Well, it's not feasible for you. You know?
Some parties weren't willing to sell.
Yeah, and it's not, and that's the thing, like when he was mentioning, you said you were just gonna do it by right, well, it doesn't pencil because y'all are here to make money. I get that, but then we're left with it, so I'm just not real excited about what's transpired here.
I appreciate that, and we do still have the buy right option, but we did want to present the options of if we were to move forward and be able to provide the larger buffer between the lots, we would like to still explore that, knowing as far as we were able to push on the U-turn movements.
I mean, there's the whole thing, the with them, what's in it for me? And with this, nothing's in it for me. It's all for y'all. So the town's not gaining anything or getting anything with this, but you're getting a bunch more extra lots. So,
Our hope was that we were preventing that left turn movement. That was the goal.
no. So that's all I got, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Commissioner Long?
I don't really have any. Would you restate again? You said if you chose the by right, would you still have the option, correct?
We do, yes, sir.
If you choose that, what happens to this traffic situation?
Under the by right scenario, I believe no improvements are made to Quail Park.
Okay, no further questions.
I had one more.
Okay, Dale, get out on order.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Mayor Pro Tem Dalton, go right ahead, please.
I'm sorry, I'm really having a hard time putting my head around this. Wanting to put a median down here, doing the bump outs, doing the U-turns. You're asking our citizens to go through a lot of hoops to make your property work, and I just can't get behind that.
Understood.
Any further questions of the applicant? I have nobody signed up to speak to this public hearing, so at this time I will close public hearing on ZC 25-2 filed by Epcom Communities for conditional rezoning for a 36-lot subdivision located on a portion of 8540 Fairview Road, parcel number 197-201-15. Item number 8 is a voluntary agriculture district presentation by our friends at Mecklenburg County. At least y'all didn't use all those acronyms and everything else you use down in Mecklenburg County. And I've got Aaron Stanforth and Kathleen Reed. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, ladies, welcome, and we're looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you for having us. My name is Erin Stanforth. I'm the Sustainability and Resiliency Manager for Mecklenburg County.
And my name is Kathleen Reed. I'm a Sustainability and Resiliency Consultant and our Farmland Preservation Coordinator for Mecklenburg County.
Great to see you all. Thank you so much. So we are going to try to fly through this. We were told we only have 5 to 7 minutes, but I'll slow down if y'all need us to. So tonight we're going to be talking about how does this harken back to our farmland preservation plan, talk about the ordinance overview, a few benefits of ag districts and program measurement, and next steps. In March of 2023, our Board of County Commissioners passed our inaugural farmland preservation plan. It is organized into 4 strategies. We're not really going to get into the details of all 4, but if you go to the next slide, so the establishment of a voluntary agricultural district in Mecklenburg County falls under our first strategy of the plan, which reads to protect farmland through voluntary programs to incentivize land preservation. And before I pass it to Kathleen, I do want to say all the photos in this deck are from farms in Mecklenburg County taken by us too.
Good.
Yeah. And so with that, I'll pass it to Kathleen.
So we wanted to kind of ground you in what voluntary agricultural districts are. So up here are answers to a lot of the questions that we often get when having these conversations. So the Voluntary Agricultural District Ordinance is adopted by our Board of County Commissioners. The adoption of that ordinance establishes the Voluntary Agricultural District Program. So bona fide farms apply voluntarily to take part in this program and receive benefits from their participation. When we talk about agricultural districts, that's each parcel that applies and is approved to be part of the program. And then we wanted to make sure to note that partners in this effort are our Mecklenburg County Soil and Water Conservation District, as well as our local North Carolina Cooperative Extension Office. We do the back work of the ordinance and establishing the program, and then they are the administrators of the program. So the purpose of this ordinance is to promote the values and general welfare of agriculture within the county that's adopting this ordinance. It also can help decrease the likelihood of legal disputes, such as nuisance actions between farm owners and their neighbors, and then can also help increase protection of non-farm development. This kind of grounds you in the Voluntary Agricultural District Ordinance throughout North Carolina. This has been present since 1985. Once adopted by our Board of County Commissioners, Mecklenburg County will be the 92nd county to adopt this ordinance. So there's about 11,000 farms and 900,000 acres already enrolled in this program throughout the state. Up here you see there are 3 different colors. The first is that light green. That shows counties that adopted just the very standard version of this program. The dark green is the standard version of the program plus an enhanced version. So farmers can choose one or the other when they take part in the program. And then the very few in gray are counties that have not yet adopted the ordinance. So qualifying for the Voluntary Agricultural District program. A farm must be a bona fide farm. That's by state statute, so North Carolina definition. And they must have production and activities relating to agriculture and everything that that entails by definition from North Carolina. So we listed examples of that, but they must be bona fide farms. They also must prove if they have highly erodible land that they are managing that by best practices. And that's really to make sure we're ensuring that we are protecting our soil and water resources. And then farms within Mecklenburg County just have to meet a 1 acre size requirement or larger. We're a unique county in that we have very small farms and we still have some very large farms. And we want to make sure that this, as long as they're bona fide, they are eligible. So passing it back over to Erin.
Thanks, Kathleen. And so some requirements that are included in the district ordinance, include the establishment of an agricultural advisory board, a conservation agreement, and this notice of proximity to farmland. So this Ag Advisory Board has to be established by state statute, and a majority of the board must be comprised of residents who are currently actively engaged in agriculture and are residents of Mecklenburg County. Now, we are hoping for every member of the Agricultural Advisory Board to represent all of our towns and cities within the county. We also will have ex officio members on the board as well, which includes members from Cooperative Extension, as well as Soil and Water Conservation District, and Kathleen and myself. Responsibilities of the board will include all of these. We're not going to get into the details. We're trying to kind of hustle through this for y'all. If you can go to the next slide. So there is a conservation agreement that is required of every participant in the voluntary ag district. And the reason for this is the goal is to prohibit non-farm use or development. So to get into the the conservation agreement details, the agreement is between the landowner and the county government directly. Each agreement is 10 years and then is automatically renewed until the landowner ends participation. And the reason for this is we're trying to include restrictions on non-farm construction, removal or destruction of vegetation, or anything that would be detrimental to our water or soil conservation. Now, a big difference here, as Kathleen mentioned before, there's the VAD, VAD, and then the EVAD, Enhanced VAD. For folks that are in the regular basic VAD, Voluntary Ag District, the agreement is not required to be recorded with the Registrar of Deeds, meaning the VAD agreement there can actually be revoked by written notice of the farm owner. When you're in the Enhanced VAD, that agreement is irrevocable, deed recorded for 10 years. And that, as we discussed a moment ago, the formation of a district is triggered by the execution of that conservation agreement between the landowner and the county. I do want to make a really important distinction here. A conservation agreement should not be confused with a conservation easement. It is not legally binding outside of the deed restriction. And then, getting into the notice of proximity to an agricultural district, we are legally required by the state to include a form of notice within a land record to alert a person researching the title of a particular tract or parcel that they're within a half-mile area of a VAD enrolled farm. Now, we can do this through our own GIS system. It's called Polaris within Mecklenburg County. There's also hard physical signs. This photo here is the only sign that is not, only picture rather, that is not taken within Mecklenburg County. This is an example of a physical sign that would be located on a farm. And then, of course, that deed notation. So this picture is actually a photo of the Iredell County GIS data layer associated with VAD farms. Everything you see that is solid green is the actual parcel farm located in that VAD program. The cross-hatching around each is that notice of proximity. So let's say I were looking at a parcel that's solid green and I was looking at a parcel that was located in that cross-hatched area near a solid green parcel. I would get a notification by researching that, hey, you're within a half-mile of a farm. You may see some things, smell some things, hear some things you weren't necessarily expecting, but fear not, it's just a farm. Some additional requirements of this VAD include a memorandum of understanding, so an MOU, between the particular town and the city of Charlotte with Mecklenburg County. And this is to allow farms within their corporate boundaries to take part in the Mecklenburg County VAD, and that is state statute. Without those MOUs established, only farms that are associated in our extraterritorial jurisdiction, i.e. ETJ, are eligible. And of course, we have to adhere to the North Carolina Department of Ag and Consumer Services to ensure that we're getting all that information in terms of how many farms, how many acres are enrolled in the program back to them on a yearly basis. Additionally, in November of last year, county staff, we had meetings with each of the 7 municipalities. We met with Manager Welch in the fall and in the winter to talk about what exactly this would mean to the town of Mint Hill. As I mentioned before, each municipality will have the opportunity to nominate someone in their town that is currently engaged in agriculture to the Ag Advisory Board, pending those MOU does get in place. And also, very important, I should note, once the VAD is established, there are no additional requirements for municipalities in the running of this program. There are also no costs nor financial benefits to municipalities associated with the VAD. And I'll pass it back to Kathleen.
So as we talk about benefits of these agricultural districts, for Mecklenburg County, this is a voluntary and really low-cost way to support land conservation and local farm businesses. It promotes agriculture within Mecklenburg County, maintains those agricultural areas for the benefit of all of our county residents, and it supports environmental sustainability by preserving our clean air, our soil resources, and clean water. There are a few optional benefits that we hope to include in our Mecklenburg County ordinance. The first is an inclusion for public hearings for condemnation. So this is an option to include in the ordinance that no state or local public agency or government unit can formally initiate an action to condemn any qualifying farmland within the voluntary ag district until a public hearing request has gone through the Agricultural Advisory Board. So an example would be DOT trying to condemn part of an enrolled farm for a new road. The hearing would have to go to the Ag Advisory Board, where DOT and that farm owner and any others would come to the same table and talk to the Ag Advisory Board about that. The Ag Advisory Board would then take in all that information and issue a ruling that is not illegally binding. If they rule against DOT, DOT could potentially still build that road, and we know that does happen in other counties. But this does give a chance for the farmer and any others to have a voice in this process and potentially to come to an agreement as two parties at the table.
I will say, if I can just add, so we have heard examples from other counties in the state where there has been these public hearings that have occurred. The findings of the public hearings, while not legally binding, have been used in lawsuits against that reference project. So I just want to be really transparent. This is not a legally binding hearing.
Sure.
And then that other optional benefit is that enhanced version of this ordinance, which we mentioned earlier. So this enhanced version requires that 10-year irrevocable conservation agreement. After that 10-year period, that agreement continues to renew for 3 years in perpetuity until that landowner removes themselves from the program. While they're in the enhanced version of this program, they also receive all the benefits of the voluntary ag district standards, so the notice of proximity, the visibility, any public hearing, and then plus some additional benefits that are primarily financial listed there. We're just going to breeze through that and go right through measurement and close out the presentation.
Yeah, so we have been working on an online application to get into this program along with the tracking system. Of course, we anticipate receiving regular reports from the Ag Advisory Board on how many people have applied to be in the VAD, how many farms and acres we've approved, and that GIS data later I mentioned before, and of course outreach events to actually promote the VAD. The map you see here on the right-hand side, that's actually a map of farmland and land that used to be farms. So everything that is gray was at one time agricultural land. Everything that is not gray is still currently agricultural land. And so with that in mind, we actually have over 10,000 acres of agricultural land within Mecklenburg County. Our goal is to get 500 acres enrolled in our VAD program by the end of this coming fiscal year, so June 2026. And real quick, sorry, the barcode you see on the left is actually the types, if you will, of agricultural lands that exist within Mecklenburg County now. And so lastly, as we mentioned, we've met with all 7 municipalities within Mecklenburg County. We are getting through these additional town board presentations. We're hoping to have those MOUs in place at some point this spring. We took this to our Environmental Stewardship Committee of the Board of County Commissioners in December. We are presenting this to our full board next week, actually, and we're hoping to have this ordinance passed via consent at some point after that presentation. And if all those things go according to plan, then we're hoping the applications for the Ag Advisory Board will be open in the spring, and then ideally, we can open the VAD program for applicants in the summer. And with that, we'll take any questions. Thank you.
Any questions? Commissioner Long?
No, sir.
Commissioner Hilton?
Whose ordinance takes precedence? So like if I have a 1.2 acre piece of land in a neighborhood and I want to slap some cows on there, is would the VAD ordinance and the MOU override our ordinance?
So would the ordinance that you're referring to be,
Mint Hill.
right, so would the function of the ordinance be land use or?
If I wanted to declare my 1.3 acre property in a residential neighborhood a farm,
So you have to hit the bona fide farm status, which is ensuring that you're actually declaring your farming, and that's through verification via the state. And then also the other requirement is highly erodible land status, as well as hitting that over 1 acre. So as long as you adhere to those things at the state level, you could be in the VAD.
and it would override our local ordinance.
That's a good
I
question.
think it would have to, I think generally it follows local ordinances, so if they're in a space that doesn't allow for that kind of agriculture.
Yes.
Then it would follow that. If that space allows agriculture and they are a bona fide farm, which isn't just someone with a couple chickens or
Yeah,
a cow.
thank you for that.
It has financial and tax benefits. There's a list of those four. They have to choose, they have one of those four.
I'm just thinking, I mean,
So
if there's a loophole, somebody's going to find it.
Sure.
And I don't think anybody wants to live next to a whole big,
Right.
pack of alpacas, in a $1 million a house neighborhood.
Agreed.
There
But
you go, you had
can
cows,
see-
now you got alpaca.
We're stepping it up.
You're
here.
moving on up.
Anything, but it
Indeed.
says on here bees too. So, I mean, if they're a bee farmer,
But you've got to have one of the four evidence listed here to qualify as a bona fide farm.
just curious.
That's a good question. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Dalton, any questions?
I applaud your effort to try to save farmland.
Thank you.
We're growing too many houses. And
Indeed.
you're giving some incentives to some farmers. I applaud that.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Mr. Henderson?
How do the farmers find out about the VAD?
Great question.
Many ways. So outreach, we have been doing a lot of conversing with local folks, a lot of events in partnership with local farms, with Soil Water Conservation District, with Cooperative Extension. We had a farm event earlier today. The Ag Advisory Board will be a really big piece of that. So those are folks who will be actively engaged in agriculture and have a lot of those relationships that we might not yet have established. So a lot of word of mouth, a lot of promotion, and hopefully once this gets kicked off and we have some folks applying, that they'll continue to tell other folks who are engaged in agriculture and have farms in Mecklenburg County that this is a way that they can start to protect that farmland.
And do you all draft the MOU, or is that something that's doing jointly with the towns, or how does that work?
Great question. So because there's 92 other counties that are already rocking and rolling with this program in the state, there's a ton of templates we've been pulling from. Our lawyers have been looking through, our legal staff rather, has been looking through the MOU that's recommended by the state to ensure that it meets all of our requirements. And so we have a draft, but of course we'll need to verify that draft with each town. So it may shift with each town as well as the city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much for traveling all the way out here and sharing with us.
Thank you for
I
having us.
appreciate that we have the handout because we did kind of force you through. That really wasn't a 7 to 10 minute presentation
about
now
that.
that we've looked at it. And we appreciate you adhering to the time constraints. And I'm sure we're going to have questions to you that we'll get to you
Wonderful.
through staff once we have a chance to digest all the stuff that you just went through. Because
Fantastic.
I'm too old to get all that quick, so it's going
talk
to take
pretty
me a day or
fast, yeah.
two. But Manager Welch will be in touch with you because he is,
Fantastic.
as you already met with him a couple of times, he is our farm expert on
Yes,
this
he
board
is.
up here. Thank you.
I do want to mention one quick thing. Commissioner Rodriguez McDowell wanted us to share that she's really sorry that she had to miss tonight, but she would have loved to be here.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Certainly miss her.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Item number 9 is public comments, which are in general public comments that nobody signed up for those this evening, but I don't want everybody to know that's here. Some of you I've not seen at meetings before, so I want you to know that we do this every month, the second Thursday, and those public comments are always available. So it doesn't have to be a project that you drove by that's in your neighborhood, because it's a great big town we're growing here, and we need to have citizens' input from one end of town to the other end of the town. So when we're getting ready to talk about a zoning issue, for instance, at Hood's Crossroads, I'd still like to see the people from the other end of Blair Road come out and speak. So that's always available. We have nobody signed up for that. This time, item number 10 is discussion and decision on ZC 24-5, filed by James A. Penman Jr. for a conditional rezoning from OADO-BCZD to OADO-BCZD to allow a retail development for property located at 6412 Matthews Mint Hill Road, parcel number 195-182-64. Mr. Horde.
Thank you, sir. I laid the updated site plan in front of you, zoning plan, and I highlighted the keynotes. Planning Board met February 18th, and they offer a favorable recommendation, and they also have a recommended consistency statement. ZC 24-5 is found to be consistent with the land use plan. The land use plan identifies the property as downtown. Downtown centers are established for commerce in the county. They are local serving areas of economic activity and community-focused gatherings. ZC 24-5 is found to be reasonable and in the public interest based on the information presented and reviewed with this petition. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Horde?
I'm good.
Anybody?
So we're going to get a signalized intersection if we vote for this for the
Yes, sir.
school.
Yes, sir. It would be a signalized intersection.
And John, help me out. I know this is a recent printout, and I know in some of our discussion, we talked about a barrier to the south side, and my eyes aren't so good. Is that shown at all, what we discussed with the developer?
Remind me again what,
Well, it's like when children are walking home, they typically use the sidewalk, which is cool. They're going to Publix or wherever they're going home. But if we talked about with the developer, by leaving this south side open without any impediment, it's going to have young people walking across the parking lot where there's a fair amount of moving traffic if this project would get approved. So we talked about a barrier, a masonry type barrier, 3 feet, 42 inches or something.
yeah, I don't remember that exact detail, but I know this conversation, you guys had it, and also the planning board had a long conversation about this. And I think it was just, kind of a wait and see. Like, we don't know exactly how the parents and children are going to interact with this. So maybe this is something that they have to improvise. I mean, it will have to be something they deal with at a later date if it becomes a problem.
Who's they?
The owner, the developer. So that's where we kind of left it at the planning board. There was no real hard solution or recommendation there.
And I respect that, but we're talking about safety of young people and, okay. We need a barrier there.
Would the applicant be willing to come forward and answer to that? Since you've been involved in all the conversations?
Yes, sir, Ray.
And I need to get your name and address again, please, for the record, sir. and
Jimmy
then you have the
Pittman,
floor.
4530 Park Road, Charlotte, NC, 28209. And in this updated zoning plan, we do have a row of shrubs that are present. It is hard to see. I mean, even on a large one, if we printed that. So it is shown there, just in appreciation of that exact need.
Okay. I knew we discussed it at length.
Yes, sir.
I didn't think you would ignore it.
No, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any further questions for the applicant while he's here? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to accept or modify the consistency statement as presented by the Mint Hill Planning Board.
So moved.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the consistency statement? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
That passes. B is a motion and decision on ZC 24-5.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
That passes. Thank you very much. Item number 11 has been deferred until the April 10th, 2025 meeting at the request of the applicant. Item 12 is appointment to the Board of Adjustments. Michelle, help me with this. What, is this the correct, are we making the correction for the dates that we made before? Is that the only thing needed here, or?
So we need one new alternate board member, and then we need a correction to those dates.
Okay.
The ones that were appointed in December.
If you'll look at it, if you guys will look at item number 12 on your memo, we made a administrative error. The mayor wasn't paying attention, probably, be my guess, but either way, the two applicants there that were signed, it signed incorrect term expiration dates. So we need to make a motion to appoint Mr. Rentschler and Mr. Radzicki to terms that end December 31st of 2027. I think we said 2026, didn't we? Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I make the motion to extend the terms to December 2027 for the two individuals.
Second.
A motion and second. Any further discussion or any clarification I need to make? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we need to make appoint a new alternate board member for a term ending December 30, 2025, and you have the applicants in front of you there.
Mr. Mayor, I make the motion for Philip Angelo to be appointed as alternate to the Board of Adjustments.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further nominations? Hearing none, all in favor of Mr. Angelo, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That passes. Thank you. Item 13 is other business and council matters. Who'd I leave off with? Commissioner Henderson, excuse me. Would you like to start?
Okay, just a couple of things. The Mint Hill Chamber is preparing for its Western Play It Forward Casino Night, which is going to be on April 4th at the Pine Lake Country Club. This is an event that supports the Chamber's leadership and CE continuing education programs. Also, I had the opportunity to, as you say, represent the town at Mint Hill Elementary School, along with some of the Mint Hill police officers, by being one of their mystery readers for their readathon earlier this month. It was just a good opportunity just to be able to share with students in our community and to be able to represent the town.
Absolutely. Thank you for doing that.
Welcome.
Mayor Pro Tem Dalton.
Yes, the Mint Hill Historical Society's rodeo is next month, the 25th and 26th. If you would like to get involved in the town and help, this would be a perfect opportunity, place to start. Call Sue McDonald at the Historical Society and tell her you would love to help in the rodeo, and she would welcome you with open arms. Also, I had the pleasure of going to a CARPO Joint MPO Roundtable meeting last month and learned a lot of things that I probably already knew, but they brought light to it. Since COVID, North Carolina DOT has had a shortfall of funding. And for an example, what it did to Mint Hill is how we were going to have Highway 51 widened from Matthews to Mint Hill. That was scrapped. How DOT comes up with how they want to do road projects, they do a scoring. since the COVID and also Hurricane Helene, they have had to score all projects, and a lot of projects have gotten deleted or put back on the back burner. For an example, how the state has so little funding, they're looking at doing a widening project on Highway 77 Express Lane. They can't even come close to funding it, so they're contracting it out. And that's many years down the road, but they're knowing right now they'll never have the funding for that. It was reported that the roads and bridges in western North Carolina that were damaged because of the hurricane, just to get the roads back to the condition they were before the hurricane, we're talking $5 billion. And the downside to all this, they were talking to us and selling us, and they will be coming to towns and communities. They're looking for ways to increase funding to the DOT, whether that is through gas tax, sales tax, mileage you drive on your car, but they're saying they have got to have some additional funding to make the road systems work. That's all, sir.
Thank you. Commissioner Holton?
Well, I could go on and on and on about
will.
events that we have going on, but I don't think I need to anymore because I'm going to recognize kind of the unsung heroes of our town. We're always talking about how great the police and fire department are, and they're phenomenal, but our public works department, I don't know if anybody has noticed, but they've strategically placed 2 new digital signs up here in town, one in front of our police department and one in front of Veterans Park, that's going to announce all of these wonderful events that we have going on right now. So I just want to give a quick thanks to our Public Works Department. As per usual, fantastic job and a nice upgrade to our parks and the police department to get the messages out that we need to get out. Thank you.
Commissioner Long?
Thank you. Kudos to whoever orchestrated that event today at the new Public Works facility and the new fire department. That was phenomenal and great attendance. I know Cheryl Smith was involved, but I think there were a lot of other people involved as well, so thank you. I was a guest with Mayor Pro Tem Dalton a couple weeks ago in Belmont at the CARPO meeting. I don't always attend those, but a takeaway that caught my attention, public transit is something we don't deal with a lot in Mint Hill, but it's been a bit of a sore spot. And Gaston County has implemented something called microtransit. So instead of using a $1.5 million bus, they're taking a Ford Transit or a Dodge Ram or whatever they call them, little mini buses around. And right now in Gaston County, if you're living there, for $2.50, they will take you anywhere in the county. And this program is working. They're having to acquire more vehicles. The ridership is going through the roof. It was good to hear a government program that's working. So it looks like they'll be maybe ditching their buses. So that was time well spent. And the other item, I attended the Central Carolina Regional Council meeting last night. With the changes in DC, there's a good bit of uneasiness about funding from Washington. And this is because of areas addressing transportation challenges, which Dale spoke to, we've spoken to tonight. Affordable housing or attainable housing inventory, as well as funds to keep older people in their homes. That's becoming a big deal because our population is aging so fast. There are more people over 60 years old now in North Carolina than there are people under 18 years old. So we got a birth problem, lack of babies. And we will continue to, it's multiplying quickly. But the service is still needed for us older people. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Long. And he mentioned microtransit, and it's not just in Gaston County. That's just been introduced.
Northern towns.
And Town Manager Welch and I both sit on the MTC, which is the Metropolitan Transit Commission, and it's been introduced in the northern counties in our county already. We're excited about it. It's a lot more exciting than bus service. When you talk about somebody that needs a ride from their home to the doctor's office, they don't have to make 13 bus transfers or whatever, and they can make it happen. So we're excited about seeing how that works out in the northern part of the county. I also want to give your commissioners a little bit of credit. Some of your commissioners were in Raleigh with myself week before last. Seems like it was last week, but week before last, meeting with our state representatives. NCDOT is having troubles, and we know that we're not getting the infrastructure we need in Mint Hill. So we're not just leaving it to NCDOT. We were up there meeting with our state representatives. I met with Representative Cotham for over 2 hours, just talking about transportation in our area and the needs of the transportation, the infrastructure in our area. So I heard you mention, ma'am, I heard you mention something about social media. We don't monitor social media. We just don't. We don't monitor social media. We like to hear from you in here, though, and that's a great thing for us to hear. So we need more of that from our community. So I want to do that. Other thing is, the mayor, I was super proud when we did our opening of our facility today. We have absolutely the best staff anywhere in the United States, bar none, and I'll argue with anybody that wants to do that. That facility over there with our new fire station, our new, what's our evidence building, with fuel depot, the safest fuel depot around. Everybody's like, oh, well, you need a fuel depot. That thing's got so many shutoffs on it. I'll be surprised if these guys can get gas in their trucks. But it's safe. So I was really excited about that today. And what we have to understand is all that groundwork was set before we ever sat in this chair. Okay? So the reason we don't do ribbon cuttings and photo ops and all that kind of stuff, too many people before I sat in this chair set up for that facility to happen. Now, it didn't happen. They didn't have the land at the time, and Town Manager Welch helped find the land and do what we were trying to do. But too many people had too much to do with that facility today for us to take credit for it. So we're not up here to take credit for it, I'll tell you right now. But I would like to give some credit to a couple people that absolutely deserve credit for some of the things that went on out there today. And if I could, I'd like to have Jerry Mullis come forward, if you would, please, sir. Any of you that were out there today, if you didn't make it way to the back, we have absolutely the finest training facility, do we not, Chief Leaf? I mean, shake your head up and down. And that would absolutely not be possible. It was not in the budget, the town's budget, when we started this thing out. But Mr. Mullis, for his service to the people of Mint Hill as being the volunteer fire chief, chairman of the board of directors, and his leadership through the Mint Hill Fire Prevention Board, the funding of the training facility was made possible. Now that, most of that I just read is on a nice plaque on the side of that building, but too many people don't get to see that. And at some point in time, and I know Jerry's age, I ate breakfast with him every once in a while, some point in time, he's not gonna be able to make it out there to see that. So I wanted to present you this evening with a plaque that's a replica of the one that's on that training facility. And I want to thank you from all the people in Mint Hill and all the firefighters that have used that training facility going forward. Thank you very much.
I'm not sure I can really say anything. I'll get emotional. That training facility is something we've tried to get done in our county, period, much less in just our side of this county. Numbers of us would go to meetings every month and we'd get promises, and this has been going on for years. But for us to be able to do this for our community, for our firefighters locally, not just the firefighters of Mint Hill, means as much to me as most anything. My little board, 10 members, Phil Angelo's here. He's the only one that's here tonight, but with Chief Leith and Chief Phillips, you know, we put this together and everybody on our board supported it, funded it, and have been happy to see that we can do this for our community. We thank y'all for allowing us to do it on your site. We talked about the property at Arlington and Cabarrus, that we might would have something there someday. if we put a station down there when we were the volunteer department. But we are so proud of what we can do. Thank y'all.
Thank you, sir. I'm not gonna get emotional. I'm not gonna do it. David, don't you do it either. If I could get the Leith family to step up here, please, I'd appreciate it. On the fire station itself, we also have another plaque. And I told you about this gentleman at last month's meeting, and I'm not gonna repeat it because I'll get upset too, you're gonna cry either. But in that plaque says, in memory of J. Albert Leith Jr., September 8, 1931, February 6, 2025, for his decades of service to the people of Mint Hill as the chaplain of the fire department and the police department. Then underneath that says, well done, good and faithful service, Matthew 25:23. And I told you last week, every time I would talk to somebody about Albert, not only was he the chaplain at the fire station and the chaplain at the police department, but he married me and my wife, or he sang at my husband's funeral and everything else. Talk about if we could all make that kind of impression on our community as we're going forward, that would be a wonderful thing. So I want the family to have this so that you don't have to make your trip. Because David's not making any trips more to the fire station after December, he told me. So we'll find out if that holds true or not. But thank you very much. We appreciate you. And I got news for you right now. I'm going to tell you, when we have these meetings and we disagree on something and then somebody else agrees with it and something else, those people right there that we're talking about and that kind of presentation is what Mint Hill's all about. We've still got that value in this little town that we care about the people who went before us and the people that laid the bricks for us to walk on. And I was so excited to see Bobby Long at the fire station today, went for the grand opening. It was unbelievable. So thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Leith family. We appreciate you. For you that don't go to meetings much, we're getting ready to go to closed session. We only go to closed session for certain reasons. We talk about legal matters or we talk about personnel matters that we can't talk about in public. This closed session, we're going into closed session to approve the minutes for this closed session we did last month. So this is going to take all of 1 minute, but we're going to go into closed session and we will not be coming back out of closed session. We'll adjourn from there. So I will ask at this time if you'll let us go to closed session. We appreciate each and every one of you.